Pandaboy, LaxGod007, has joined the room. Thar0732, Thar0372, has joined the room. Waggy_nub, has joined the room. Gabriel, Babinudrico, has joined the room. Librasho, has joined the room. Mauder_99, has joined the room. Kazuma_Tech 2020 has joined the room. PF1, PGFSP 2005 has left the room. PF1, PGFSP 2005 has left the room. Kazuma_Tech 2020 has left the room. Kazuma_Tech 2020 has left the room.
This is going to be hugely exciting, and the track is wet. We knew that weather was going to come into it. We weren't quite expecting it, though, at the start of the race. So who's going to plump for what tyres, and who will be leading down towards the first corner, crucially, as well. Kylian Drumont starts this one on pole position, a legacy of his victory in the sprint race. He's joined on the front row by his countryman, Thomas Le Boutelet. Sasaki heads row 2, and he has got Kai de Bruin for company. Unlucky to miss out on a podium here earlier on. Pol Jura heads the third row of the grid, and he's got Valerio Gallo alongside him. Gallo, of course, making good progress, as we said, in that sprint race. Jose Serrano next up in P7, and Takuma Miyazono, who is the favourite in the Predict the Winner campaign, lines up P8 with Adriano Carrazza very close behind, and then Angel Inestrosa, the two South Americans, on the penultimate row of the grid. Guy Barbara in 11th position, and rounding it out is Samuel Cardinal, the Canadian. So we know the track is wet, and everybody has decided to start on the intermediate compound of tyre. We're looking at the fact that there's some wet patches, but they're mostly offline here, Jimmy. That seems pretty sensible to me. Yeah, but it does mean if you're going side by side with someone, there are patches of the circuit that your intermediate tyre are not going to be able to deal with. So it's something to think about when overtaken. Also, is that these guys, I can guarantee they practice mostly in the dry. So this is going to be maybe uncharted territory for them. I expect they'll struggle a little bit, but it'll definitely make the racing more entertaining, I think. Certainly will. Well, penny for the thoughts of that man, Kylian Drumont, and what's going to be running through his mind at the moment. Sitting on pole position with his countryman Thomas Le Boutelet behind. They put in a great formation in that sprint race, but can they repeat it here in this grand final? They're out of the final corner and coming to the timing line. This, of course, is the all-important race for points for Gran Turismo World Series 2 for the Nations Cup. We drive to the line here at the Red Bull Ring. Weather in play and 30 laps of action to come. The lights go green and we go racing for the grand final of the Nations Cup here in Berlin. So Drumont leads them up to turn 1, and then Le Boutelet, then Sasaki, but it's turn 3, the first big braking zone. That's the real opportunity for overtaking, and Drumont, of course, does not have the advantage of the slipstream, but he did have the advantage of a nice clean run out of the first corner. Sasaki looks to try and pounce here on Le Boutelet. On the brakes we go. It's very close behind there as well. Serrano versus Jura. De Bruin's into the side of Sasaki as well. That's going to drop Sasaki down a few places, and Gallo is now through on his inside as well as Pol Jura. So 2 places lost in the space of one corner there for Takuma Sasaki. Not the start of the race he'll have wanted. Gallo, meanwhile, is on the inside of Jura and looks like he's made it stick down into turn 5. Serrano versus Miyazono side by side in the background. Action everywhere you look on the start of this race. Yeah, 3 places now lost for Sasaki. Gallo up 2, Kai de Bruin up 1 now. I'm sure the stewards will be having a little look at that one. It's quite an aggressive move there. Serrano now getting by Sasaki. That's 4 places lost for the Japanese driver, and now he's back with his countryman Takuma Miyazono. A terrible start there for the Japanese driver, but it just goes to show that qualifying doesn't always guarantee you a good start to the race. On board now, Sasaki, and look, he's that far back from where he started. You can see the spray being kicked up on the cars in front. Does hamper visibility a little bit, but not too much, enough to still see where you're going. But onto lap 2 now, and the driver's using all the curb on the exit there, so confident to do that on this intermediate tyre, but got to be careful because they might still find a wet patch yet. Yep, Carrazza's lost a couple of places from where he started. Gallo was the big winner on the opening lap. He made up 2 positions into P4. Into the braking zone of turn 3 we go. The closing speed there always makes me wince a little bit because they absolutely slam it on the anchors and just about get it stopped before making contact with the other drivers. Now Jura and Serrano, they're in formation here in 5th and 6th position. Can the 2 Spaniards, who of course I remind you were the top 2 finishers in the reverse order of where they are now in the first World Series event back in June. So Serrano and Jura with a lot of work to do in 6th and 5th place there respectively. Kai de Bruin meanwhile up into 3rd, but we know that incident on the first lap at the moment is under investigation. Yeah, we'll see what the stewards say on that one, but meanwhile it's Drumont, Le Boutelet, de Bruin. Drumont with a 1 second gap as it is. So here's a replay. Didn't see this one. This is Carrazza on board, P9 currently. on the brakes.
Oh, yeah, punches the back of Miyazono there, and Guy Barber having contact. I mean, you drove in the back of him. I don't know what you want to say about that one.
Yeah, not ideal at all there for Agile Karatsa. We know he's not afraid of getting his elbows out and often gets into a bit of trouble for it as well. The upshot is he's down in 11th position, so not good at all there for him. Guy Barber was the big sort of profit on that. Here's Kai De Bruyne attacking against Thomas Laboutelet. Disappointed to miss out on that podium in the sprint race was De Bruyne. He makes amends for it with a send to the inside down into turn 3 and up into second position is the Dutchman then. Great start to this race then here for him so far.
Kai De Bruyne looking strong today here at Berlin. I mean, could this finally be the time we see Kai battle for a win here? I don't know. Too early
now
to
you've
say.
done it.
I've probably jinxed it, but yeah, on lap 3 of a third of that race, is that what you call it?
Well, look, we're on lap 3, Jimmy, but I have to say, look at the circuit. You can see a few dry lines sort of just beginning to start appearing there, and I'm interested to see how much the spray is going to start to dissipate over the course of this one, because if there's no active rain falling, of course, these intermediate tyres, they're working all right here so far, but when's the crossover point going to come where you're going to think about dry tyres? There we are, look at the crossover lap times. Where are we now in terms of them? We're 1:13s, we're not too far away from that dry tyre, really.
Yeah, we're about there, so basically it's just who wants to blink first, because one, the tyre's got to come up, and two, the racetrack becomes a lot narrower when you go onto that soft tyre, because if you even touch a wet patch, you get, and I speak from experience, you go flying off into the undergrowth. So no further action there from the start of the race. So Kai De Bruyne second place, and now they're catching Kylian Drumont.
And look at Valerio Gallo, he's bringing himself right into the picture here then as well. Karatsa, Barber and Miyazono are under investigation for that first corner skirmish that we saw a few moments ago. But now you've got 3 drivers lining astern. Oh, was there a bit of contact there between Laboutelet and De Bruyne down into turn 4?
And there might have been, I'm not sure, we didn't get a good angle of it. Kai De Bruyne now defend from Laboutelet, they just chopped across the nose there of the French driver, saying, no, thank you, sir, I'm taking this for now. But yeah, might have been a smattering of contact, but I'm sure. So in the midfield, we're just behind this now. We have the Spanish Euro and Serrano. Gallo there moving offline. Maybe to try and break the toe, maybe to try and cool the tyres down, because it looks like you can see now a dry line forming. So we are getting to the point now, I think, where they'll be starting to consider the idea of the soft compounder tyre. I wonder who's going to blink first.
Well, that's all well and good, but look at the clouds overhead. I mean, some of them are looking still pretty dark in the distance there, aren't they? Oh, De Bruyne's wide on a turn 1, isn't he, here? That's going to put Laboutelet right on his rear wing, and also allow an opportunity for Valerio Gallo as we come into turn 3. So into the braking zone we go. Laboutelet's got the inside line. Gallo's got the momentum, but no room to use it. Oh, and a biff into the back there as Jura, sort of half-season opportunity, but makes a bit of a meal of his braking and has to back out of it and just allow Gallo an opportunity to hold on to that 4th place.
Yeah, a bit clumsy by Jura there, just sort of running into the back of Gallo. There's nowhere to go there, run into the back of him. So I don't think there'll be a penalty or anything, but just maybe a little warning from the steward saying, come on, keep it clean. We've got a long race to go, yeah, boys, so don't be shunting each other on lap 5. Kai De Bruyne falling back a little bit from Drumont after that mistake at T1, but it just goes to show how narrow the margins are. Again, the sideways moment for Kai De Bruyne. He's really struggling now on these inters. Maybe he's burned them up.
I was just about to say,
that way.
Yeah, I was overheating the tyres now then here. I mean, in terms of the tyre wear, they're all about sort of the same. Oh, Laboutelet's the first driver to blink, so P3, Laboutelet's come in. We were asking that at the end of the last lap, and at the end of this one, Laboutelet's come in. He's going to stick a set of, surely, soft tyres on, because if the rain is going to be set to come down later on, if you stuck anything other than softs on, you'd be a bit of a wally, to be honest with you. Onto the soft he goes. Laboutelet out and into the circuit, but where's he going to emerge?
Well, I don't understand though, surely. If you're like Cardinal and Estroza, Karatsa, you take a punt too. You go for it, because you're not going to catch him on speed at that point. But I would love to see how Laboutelet handles this as Gallo comes under attack from Jura. Jura up the inside, Serrano's going to follow him through. They come 2 at a time to the Spaniards, and there goes Jura. Can Serrano make it through as well, using the draft of Jura, who pulls across to help his compatriot? That's teamwork there. These guys are working together.
I love that. And Sasaki's there sort of lurking in the background here, isn't he, after the challenging start that the Japanese driver has had to this race. I really am not sure what's going on with Takuma Miyazono at the moment, by the way. We're used to seeing him up the sharp end pretty consistently throughout this one. And, normally we see him doing a bit of a different strategy, so it would be a bit all over the place. But, here in these conditions, you have no choice but to be on the tyres that you're on, really. He's not made much of an impression at all here tonight.
No, not really. Just maybe not gelling. He's been very busy. He's driving real life now in the NLS and Nürburgring Langstrecke series. And might I say, by the way, fastest Sector 2 by Thomas Laboutale.
So soft tyres are the way to go. There we go. Serrano and Barbara ready to take profit of that one. They've listened to the advice. Now, the question is, have they chosen the right tyre? Because look, the dry line, very much prominent here. You can see it's pretty slick still, though, off-line. You've got to be quite careful because you dive to the inside, even though you've got those slick tyres on in particular, and you're sending it through, you're not going to get the car stopped because you're just going to have no grip coming into the braking zone. On the intermediate tyres, you might be all right if you've got enough rubber left underneath you and you've not burned them up. But this is the problem. All the while they're on this drying circuit, they're going to be slower than the soft-shod runners who are just going to be closing that gap down, even though they're at the back of the field.
The lap times are falling, Tom. 14, 15 second, 1:15 some people there, from the 1:13 from earlier on. These intermediate tyres are just falling apart. They've got to get onto a soft tyre. Laboutale, I think, has called it well, because we'll see how he is through that middle sector, what his lap time is. He's not set a full lap time yet without a outlap. So we've got 1:13.0 to beat. I won't be surprised to see him dip into the 12s here, and he'll be the overall leader when they all pit.
No doubt about it. Now, to the top two, come into the pit lane and blink to the other. They have to. Yeah, no worries. So, Ura in there as well. Gallo surely is going to follow them. I just reckon we're going to see a flying formation with everybody else coming into the box, because any longer on that one, and you just be a bit of a fool, really. You have to sit for the current conditions. But the question is, Laboutale, Serrano and Barbara, what sort of inroads have they been able to make relative to the other drivers around them? The question will be here for Laboutale in particular, because he was the first driver to blink, and has he got the lead of the race back here from Kilian Drumont as a result of that early pit stop? Comes out of the first corner, and he is now back into the lead of the race, and he's got a bit of a cushion here, and Serrano's picked his pocket there as well, so that's worked out quite nicely there for Jose Serrano, who now splits the two Frenchmen in second.
Laboutale went 6/10 faster than anyone on his first full lap there on the slick tyre, so that was the right choice. I'd say maybe they all boxed a little bit too late. It was a bit of a gamble by Laboutale, but it did pay off. It's put him at the front of the pack now, and everybody else who sort of followed suit. Serrano boxed early as well, has moved to a few places, so that was the right choice to do that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if it continues this way, if it continues to dry, or whether we're due more rain or not.
Yeah, the clouds you can see looking still pretty menacing overhead. There's a big dark one right up in the middle of the middle sector there, and I mean, look, I'm no weather expert, but I have lived in Great Britain for pretty much all of my life. I have to say, that is looking pretty menacing, pretty ominous indeed. You had no choice but to change over to the dry tyres. If you try and eke it out on the intermediate tyres, you're going to hemorrhage so much time that anything you'd have gained from not making that extra pit stop, you'd have ended up losing from the fact that everybody else around you would have been so much faster. So they had no other choice but to blink at that point, and it's been a great profit there for Thomas Laboutale and for Jose Serrano. And let's see now what happens with the weather. If it starts to fall in a light intensity, they might be all right if they can keep heat into the tyres. But if it's an absolute deluge, intermediates or wet, they've got to be the only way to go. And do you blink early? Do you chance it and hope that it'll dry up and then wait till later? It's a proper gamble, a proper guessing game that no one really knows how to work out.
You've got to just drive to the conditions at this point. It is dry, the dry tyre is faster, stay on that tyre. I mean, you can't just go, oh, it looks a bit cloudy out, I'm going to switch to the wet. You'll just lose all your time you've gained. But you can see out there, it is slippery. It's not full slick conditions yet. There is a dry line, yes, but there's also a lot of wet on the circuit still. And if you catch that in this car, the crash happens so quickly you don't even realise what's happened. You're already in the wall. So right now, Laboutale, Serrano handling out the best. Now 1-2 Serrano, again, from someone who seemed a bit anonymous in the sprint race, is just doing what he does, climbing up the field, and is now looking at the back of the leader and gaining. Well, can we see another win maybe for Jose Serrano today? It's anybody's game at this point.
Yeah, Jose Serrano has absolutely come alive here in this grand final. He's got the overspeed. First corner, not really the place you're going to be making a pass. Needs to hope that he gets a strong exit out of there, but has a bit of a slide actually on the curb there. Laboutale gets great attraction, and that just denies an opportunity for Serrano to try and launch an attack into turn 3. No dive bombs into there, not at this stage of the race. We're only 1/3 through out of the race distance, but look at how dark that cloud is looking overhead. Look at how ominous it is here at the Red Bull Ring. And now Serrano closer than ever before on Thomas Laboutale, who goes for a sort of half defensive line down that back straight, but holds on to the race lead coming into 4.
Notice at the back of this little train, it's Guy Barbara. He's managed to bring himself back up from pretty much the back of the grid up to P7 now, only a couple of seconds off the lead. I mean, it is the back of his train, but he's there. If there's a mistake, he will be there to capitalise. So good performance so far from the Australian driver. Again, we see this every time. he makes a mistake, comes back through, and then finishes pretty high, but could have done better if he qualified well. It's just, he needs to get that qualifying sorted, I think.
Yeah, was his Achilles heel. You know, they sort of put him on the back foot courtesy of the fact that he started right down the field in the sprint race. Look at the live points rankings. If it landed as it was now, it would be great for Jose Serrano, because he would have a bit of a comfortable cushion going into the penultimate round of the Gran Turismo World Series in Los Angeles in November. But there's plenty of time between now and when the checkered flag will fly here in this race. On board we are here with Kai de Bruyne, ever the opportunist, ever chasing his first podium in the GT World Series. Into turn 3 we go. And such is the legacy of the race that we've had here for this one, that we haven't really had any breakaway battles, no divergence on soft, medium or hard compounds or strategies. That's why we're on lap 11, and you've got, 6 or 7 drivers all separated by a second or so effectively out on track.
Yeah, I mean, it is that close right now, and it will continue to be that close until the checkered flag falls, I imagine, as we keep watching Jose Serrano. The thing is, if you make a move, you just open yourself up to attack from somewhere else, so you really have to make sure you are 100% sure you want to do that. You've got to be decisive. Gallo right now, they're looking onto the wet line. I always get a bit scared when they do that, but yeah, they managed to seem to make the